Good morning. This is a meeting of the Metropolitan Board of Ethical Conduct. It is October 24th, 2023 at 9:04, and I'm calling this meeting to order, and I will ask our board secretary to record the roll.
Chair Gianni.
Present.
Mr. Gutierrez.
Present.
Mr. Patton.
Present.
Mr. Spraggins.
Present.
Ms. Young.
Present.
Ms. Carpenter, Ms. Lewis are absent, and our new council president pro tem is also not present.
Thank you. But we have a quorum, so we will proceed. Item number 2 is the public comment period. And again, I will turn to our board secretary. Is anyone?
There are
No one registered.
No one has registered. Okay. That brings us to item number 3, approval of the meetings of our last meeting on August 25, 2023. The meeting minutes are in your package. And I will ask for a motion to approve the minutes, and we can then discuss. May I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Okay. Is there any discussion about the minutes from the August 25th meeting?
And I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right. Okay. Is there any discussion? So the motion to approve the minutes are before us. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Let's use by roll call.
I don't think that.
No. Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Hearing none. So the minutes of August 25, 2023 have been approved by the board. That takes us to item number 4, notice of appeal rights. And again, I'll ask our board secretary to provide that notice.
After a contested hearing by this board, a party may appeal to the Chancery or Circuit Court of Davidson County by filing a writ of certiorari within 60 days. Any party wishing to pursue an appeal is encouraged to seek independent legal counsel to ensure the deadlines and procedural requirements are satisfied.
Thank you. That brings us to item number 5, the substance of the meeting, the annual lobbying report. We will first do a quick overview of the current lobbying code and reporting requirements, just so that we're all on the same page and have a sense of it, what the issue is, and then review and discuss the most recent report and a draft letter to the Vice Mayor, which we've been talking about. Okay, so with respect to the overview of the current lobbyist code and reporting requirements, Mr. Kyle has provided to all of us a link to review, and particularly because we have new members, just point out that we have long had, our jurisdiction was standard of conduct under the code, which is the ethical, as well as disclosure requirements of public employees under that provision, the standard, that's the ethical side. But then a few years ago, actually effective 2021, we got a whole new jurisdiction under the lobbying code. And that's what we're looking at today. So everyone has access to review that to make sure we're all familiar with what the code says. But then in terms of the reporting requirements, I don't know, was this in our package last time? So we then have in our package the actual form that lobbyists have to fill out every year by January 31 for the prior calendar year. And that is a form that, again, was new as of 21, so we're only a few years into it, but it requires the lobbyist to fill it out and sign it under penalties of perjury. And as to certain schedules, the lobbyist client has to do the same. And so if we have it in our package, then everyone's familiar with what that looks like. And again, we were given the link so we could actually look at them online. And I hope everyone had a chance to kind of flip through them and get a sense of how empty they are, essentially. I mean, did anyone find one where anything was reported? I didn't. again, it's not for us to address the policy behind this. I will say, it's certainly a good and repeated reminder to lobbyists if they have to fill this out, and to clients about what the code says about giving. But that said, it is the code, and we are responsible for, to some extent, overseeing it. So that is why we are here today. And do you want to just update on these two matters on our 2022 report?
Yes, so we had, in the draft letter, Ms. Gianni stated that there were multiple violations for inconsecutive reporting years, and so I was able to confirm that there were 4 individuals that have failed to issue a report in both 2021 and 2022 lobbying years, and that was Sheila Harris and Anthony Johnson of Verizon, Thomas H. Lee of Meharry Medical College, and Elizabeth Millsaps of Flock Safety. And I don't know what were these.
And that is, those were 3 instances where
They failed to report last year, but have already re-registered for the current year. There's 3 individuals: Jeanette Barker of the National Downtown Partnership, Clayton Crownover of the Associated Builders and Contractors, and Benjamin Simpson of the Nashville Chamber of Commerce.
so that's why we're here today.
Can I ask
Yeah,
a quick question?
please, yeah.
So I know with registering for the state lobbying requirements, you have to do like an online training and take this test that basically tests you on reporting requirements when you have to do it, X, Y, and Z. Is there any sort of training or test for Metro lobbyists?
No, there's not a training. I think when the code changed a couple of years ago, this board, along with the previous Metro clerk, put together a lobbyist handbook.
Yes, it was right during the pandemic. We did, remember that? We did a lot of writings, a manual, an FAQ, all kinds of, I think we even did some scenarios perhaps. But it wasn't a training, but I think that issue came up. I think it's a matter of,
Yeah, just a
Capacity?
suggestion, maybe like as a prerequisite for registering, you have to take like an online training that just kind of tests your knowledge of the reporting requirements and maybe the contents of the handbook that you created. That may be a way to get people back into compliance.
that's a really interesting idea. I mean, or even if a training for budgetary reasons or HR capacity staffing purposes is going to be challenging, but to not allow someone to register until they sign a declaration that they have received all of these pieces of the code, the manual, the FAQs, and have read them and have had an opportunity to ask questions, and then they sign. So something like that would be one form that the clerk's office could make a requirement prior to registration. That's, I think, something that would be within your office, the clerk's office's discretion. I don't think that would involve the code at all or the council at all. I think, let's have discussion on that. What do folks think about that?
I'm not so familiar with the code, but it seems like it's just an administrative function to say, you need to certify this in order to register as a lobbyist. I don't see why they couldn't do it, but.
Yeah, seems like a good idea. I mean, even just check boxes like when you sign up.
Acknowledging receipt of all that information, yeah,
Receipt and maybe declaring that you've read it.
sure.
I do want to, this would be a good time for perhaps you to explain the reminders situation, how that works.
Right,
For
yeah.
folks for new register.
So they're for registration or for the reporting?
Well, either, both, actually.
Well, they can register at any time if they have a new client, but
Okay.
they are due to renew by, is it December 31st? The lobbying year runs on the calendar year, so January through December. If they register towards the end of the year, then it's only good through the end of that December, so they'd have to re-register. But technically, they can re-register at any time. They don't always follow that renewal process.
But then in terms of the reporting requirements,
Reporting requirements are due by January 31st each year. We send out reminders in December for that, and we also send up the reminder getting closer to that deadline, and then the code requires us to send a reminder by February 5th for letting them know that they can still file late with the late reporting fee.
so they do, every lobbyist gets 3 formal reminders well in advance on the, right at the, right before the deadline. Well, 3 times. That it's coming up, and before the end of the calendar year, and before the due date of January 31st. So there are 3 reminders. So it gets harder, I think that's fair, should be fairly effective. But I personally like the idea of asking for a signature that they've received these documents, they understand it, they've had an opportunity to ask questions about reporting requirements. I think that's a strong point. I'll defer to legal counsel. Is it legal counsel's view that that's consistent with administrative discretion from the clerks? For the clerk's
Just
office?
a box that reflects acknowledgement of having read the provisions and.
Yes.
I think so. The code says that everyone shall register by filing an electronic form prescribed by the Metro Clerk within 5 business days. So
Yeah.
something like that just says, you acknowledgement of the provisions
Right.
that govern your registration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that should be okay.
So,
Yep. I can have the form updated with just a line attesting to that.
okay. Fabulous. Good. Thank you.
I'd maybe include like an acknowledgement of the next year's date when they submit the report too. So like when you submit in January, they know the next year's dates too.
The next year's date for when it's going to be due.
Yeah, or like just the reminder of,
Yeah.
like just the same text even, like that they're checking off on. So like each year they're acknowledging that they know everything.
Okay. Those are great suggestions.
Yeah, right, because like from a UX experience, like the lobbyist is only like check this one time a year, right? Like that's all they're doing, like for the most part.
Wait, they're doing what?
They're like just logging it, like submitting this thing, like checking this info one time a year, right? So it's-
Yeah, I believe you might know more about the state ethics commission, how they proceed, but I think they may have quarterly reporting. Do you know?
I can't recall.
Yeah, but you're right, it's once a year. And if as we see from these forms, it's very small stuff that they'd be reporting. Literally you'd really have to be keeping very clear notes as you go throughout the year. Our last council member who was the pro tem who was with us said, basically people that's why people don't do it. Because there's a cumbersomeness to reporting, it just doesn't happen, as I guess a general rule, I believe was her comment.
It being lobbyists don't give
gifts
Yeah.
or buy food for legislative or executive branch officials, anything that would be required to substantively be reported. But again, that's really off our docket. That's a policy question, not for us. So for us is that we, as named in the code as the board to which these reports come, and we see repeated failure to comply with the existing code, we felt we needed to do something to at least alert council to the fact that folks aren't complying, and that's where the letter comes in. Okay, so maybe if everyone, any more discussion on, just general discussion on the requirements? And then if not, I will say one more thing just to point out. What we've been talking about is the lobbyists giving gifts to legislative or executive branch officials. We also, just to be aware of it, just to connect up in our kind of, the totality of our jurisdiction, the ethics side of our work also has an annual disclosure statement that public officials in the legislative and executive branch have to fill out. All employees? All public?
It's elected officials, department heads, and then there's a handful of stated positions within an executive order that expanded it.
Right. And they also have to be filed annually to your office, to the clerk's office. And it's also fairly, one's just a potential conflicts, but the other one is like, did you receive any gifts in the past 12 months from anyone? So it's also probably somewhat cumbersome. I don't know if there's any, if you ever get reports that a lobbyist has given you something and then not found it in the lobbying. I don't know if anyone has that job of reviewing the, yeah.
We currently don't do that
Yeah.
cross-checking.
Yeah, okay, but that would be potentially an interesting analysis to see. And maybe,
In the old days, we had people called reporters that would, pull all these files and try to do that. I don't know if we still have enough to do it or not, but
Yeah.
that would be a good job for the media.
yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's now turn our attention to the letter, if there's no other discussion, on general reporting requirements. And, let's see, and this is just kind of wide open. I do know that the one change made by legal was kind of a technical change, kind of more of a typo. So everyone has the draft letter before them, and this is the draft. The current one is the one that has the blank in footnote 1 for the date.
So everyone in their packet has the original version and the one you sent yesterday.
Okay.
So the stapled copy is the updated one.
Okay, the updated, all it does is it took out last month's meeting, which didn't occur. So if we look at this draft, page 1, the last line of the second paragraph is I have it as a chapter citation. We're going to change the word chapter to the word section. And then the exact same change in footnote 2, we're going to change the word at the end from chapter to section, because those are section sites, technically. Citation formality. Okay, so those are 2 changes. We will, if we approve this, this letter in whatever form, amended form, this meeting, we will put the date in footnote 1. And other than that, we're open to discussion, any changes or comments.
I think it's a great letter, and I don't have any substantive changes. I was going to suggest that we attach a copy of our most recent report of lobbyists who have not complied with the code to the letter. And in fact, I think that if we sent that to the full council and I would say we should copy the council on this letter. If we sent that to the full council every year, I bet those lobbyists would very quickly get into compliance, because a member of the council would forward it to them and say, hey, you're on the naughty list, and all of a sudden you see them register, because the public shaming element might be valuable. So, I mean, if we're already producing the report every year, and we have the power, the clerk has the power to prepare and publish such reports as may be deemed appropriate, we could just send it to the council as well. That's my only suggestion.
Good suggestion.
Yeah,
It's a really good suggestion.
Good suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are my thoughts too, like thinking about, could we just outline like the procedures by dates, like even that align with, because we have to have an annual meeting, so like, by March 1st, a report's published, and if it's not, then we send whatever to the council at some other point in time, or like in April. Like if the dates are outlined, kind of like the procedures, like here it's just kind of ambiguous what could happen, or like what, I mean, the mechanism for review is. But if we just outline dates and stuff, I think it just,
So, okay, I'm understanding one that, so at the moment, what the code says is we receive it by March 1. And then and March 1 is also, or the first Monday of March is our standing annual meeting. And that's when we receive the code. And are you suggesting that we adopt as the rules or procedures of our board, that we then review it and write a report and send it to the council within 30 days from
yeah, like by
that?
April or whatever.
Whatever,
Then
30 days
it's a
after our
standing thing
meeting.
on a
Yeah,
calendar,
yeah.
and that's what the outline procedure is for every year.
Okay, so I think if we were gonna do that, and it would be probably, you'd wanna tie it 30 days from the annual meeting, because sometimes annual meetings get shifted because of quorum issues and things like that. But, so 30 days from the annual meeting, when we receive the report, we write a letter and a summary of the report to the council. And that would be part of our process. I think it's a really good idea. I think we'd want to, I think that would be, if we are going to change the rules and procedures of our board, we have to do it by vote formally. And I guess, and you're suggesting we put that in here.
Yeah, like the suggested timeline. And maybe it's just the suggested timeline here until it becomes material, then maybe we vote on if it changes.
I'm not sure, I think it's a really good idea, and, so that even if, like, let's say we do this and next year everybody complies, we would still send a letter / report, cover letter and a report to council to say, this is what all of the lobbyists have complied. In fact, it might be interesting, if this would require the clerk's office, but to say, for this in 2022, like to make a little bit of a paragraph report. In 2022, there were, in this case it'd be 2023, there were X number of lobbyists registered with Metro government. They were representing X number of clients, and that this year, 100% of the lobbyists complied with the lobbying code, and that kind of thing. Like a summary report, like a paragraph. So whether there's problems or a year where there's full compliance, but it's just the routine, an annual report that comes from the board.
Yeah.
So we're passing it along from the clerk, we see it, we review it, and we send it up to council. It's your proposal.
Yeah, mostly because like I also think, there's not a lot outlined here what to do. So I don't, somebody suggest a bunch of random stuff, that,
Wait, so I want to understand your.
Or like, yeah,
more
but
about
like
the
this
letter.
like regular, like an outline procedure is like what I maybe want to suggest here before. Because
So-
like, the other pieces of this letter, like there's currently no mechanism for enforcement. Like, I don't want I think it makes sense for us to suggest what we want done. And then also for what we want, like outlined for like a regular process.
Yeah, I think I was seeing this more as raising the issue letter and saying, come talk to us, we have thoughts. Because one of my thoughts is that we don't allow registration if you didn't comply last year. I mean, that I think seems like very straightforward, kind of appropriate consequence. If you didn't, you don't get to re-register. I realize that may be hard. There may be logistics problems, because if you re-register in November and then you fail to submit your report, you're now registered, but you didn't comply, you'd have to unregister them. And that would be that might be challenging.
I think we could probably manage that.
You can manage it?
We currently track them on a spreadsheet, whether or not they've paid or
Okay.
registered and their dates. So we could just kind of flag it, pending receipt of reports.
Yeah, they have to be kind of deregistered somehow. And then the question is, how do you send notice to everyone to know they're not active, they've been inactive, their registration's been inactivated due to lack of compliance with the code? How would you?
Since they would have already paid for the registration, I'm not sure as far as the code, if we would have to issue a refund or.
Yeah, it gets complicated. So maybe it's not that easy. Maybe just this idea of the public shaming is really the best you can do in terms of consequences. I must say, I mean, call me, a rule-following person, but it bothers me that you're not complying, but you keep re-registering.
Yeah.
And why are we letting them re-register if they're disrespecting the code? Or I shouldn't say disrespecting, not complying with the code. Since registration's in the control of the clerk's office. Is there any thoughts that legal counsel would like to share with us?
Yeah, there's a timing difference between registration and filing the report, because the
Right.
report is due end of January, but you would have registered prior
Right.
to then.
Yeah.
So council, one possibility is that council could, that whole notion of after the deadline, those that did not file the requisite report will have to show cause. And if not, if they fail to show cause while they'll file the requisite forms, then the registration is suspended until such forms are filed. So, but that will require council action to institute such a procedure, so that if you fail to appear, it's just suspended and you're no longer registered.
Right. And that's very much what they do at the state. At Tennessee Ethics Commission does that. They have show cause hearings, and you have to show up. You literally have to come and appear and say why you didn't file it. Yeah, and that's why I was kind of keeping potential proposals that we'd have for a discussion with council, either vice mayor's designee, or however they wanted to communicate with us, rather than trying to get it all in this letter. The letter, I think, is really just to flag it and say, hey, this is an issue. Everyone's busy up there that's trying to get organized in a new administration, and just wanting to get on, kind of, get onto their docket as something to be thinking about. And we're like, I think it's like we're standing by with ideas here. As soon as you're ready to talk to us, come talk to us. So.
Here's a suggestion.
Yeah.
In the next to the last full paragraph, so if we decided that we were gonna, publish this to the council annually or something, we could say, for these reasons, the board has determined that it will share the non-compliant lobbyist list with you and the council annually after it's available on March 1st. Additionally, the board urges you and the Metropolitan Council to consider these findings, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of that paragraph, provide greater means of accountability. If we wanted to nod to some potential solutions, we could say, for example, by preventing lobbyists who are not in compliance from registering them for the following year, or requiring them to show cause as to why their registration should not be suspended. And then just go on from there. I mean, to sort of drop it out there, hopefully somebody would pick up on this idea and decide that they want to run with it.
Yeah, that's true. And that would kind of meet what your interest and what you were proposing
Yeah,
in the letter.
I didn't even get to thinking about consequences, but I was just like trying to have something
Yeah.
regular
Yeah.
that like
Okay.
creates that kind of regular rules.
Discussion of Mr. Sprague just said, how does that sound? I wonder if we can just play back this.
You can read it more slowly, or, it doesn't have to be those exact words. I'm
Yeah, but
happy
those
to-
words are pretty close, So, all right, so let's get that language down, and then let's get the language written, and then we can actually decide what we want. Okay, so it would go before, second to the last full paragraph. Before the words "for these reasons," that paragraph would start with the following, right?
Well, what I was
Or
doing,
was it the end of the prior?
my edit is presuming that we actually decide that we're going to send the names to the council every year, but if we did do that, then it would say, for these reasons, the board has determined or decided that it will share the non-compliant lobbyist list, whatever we call it, with you and the council annually after it is available on March 1st.
With you and council?
Yeah, that's what I was suggesting.
So it would say something like, for these reasons, the board has decided or determined, we will share the non-compliant lobbyist list with you and council once it is available on March 1 of each year. Something like that?
After March 1 of each year.
After March 1 of each year, and take out once it's available. Just say after March 1 of each year.
I think so.
Okay. Decided or determined. Do you have a preference for words? That word, decided or determined? For these
I
reasons,
guess decided is more what we
Yeah.
do.
the board decided it will share the non-compliant lobbyist lists with you and council after March 1 of each year.
And then make a new sentence that says, additionally, the board urges you and the Metropolitan Council to consider. Okay. All I'm doing is saying additionally and then going back to the text of your letter.
Oh, thank you, okay. Additionally, okay, so take out the, for these reasons, right?
Yeah, we've already used that, and then we're gonna,
Oh, yes, okay,
Put in.
okay, gotcha, okay, now, okay, additionally, let's see, the board urges you and, okay, Metro Council to consider these findings, and then after, are you putting a comma after accountability? Or was it a new
technically,
sentence?
I wrote an M dash on my page, but we can do a comma too. It's-
Oh, I love dashes. I love dashes.
I'm a big dash user.
So am I, and people always object to them, but they're fabulous.
Not me, not I.
Okay, so we're gonna do a dash,
All
because we
right.
can. All right,
And then I wrote, for example, by preventing lobbyists who are not in compliance from registering for the following year, comma, or requiring them to show cause as to why their registration should not be suspended.
okay, so I have, for example, by preventing lobbyists who are not in compliance from registering for the following year, or requiring them to show cause as to why their registration should not be suspended. I can read scribble. Wow. Okay. Is that language, is that your language?
Yes, that's my proposal.
What do you think?
I think it's good. I'm good.
Sounds good to me.
Yep. Okay, so let me see. So then, this is how this letter will read. Okay, if I can remember the scribbles. So the second to the last paragraph reads as follows. For these reasons, the board decided it will share the non-compliant lobbyist list with you and council after March 1 of each year. Additionally, the board urges you and Metro Council to consider these findings and if appropriate, take necessary steps to implement legislative changes that will strengthen lobbyist regulation under the Metro Code and provide greater means of ensuring accountability, for example, or one dash, for example, by preventing lobbyists who are not in compliance from registering for the following year or requiring them to show cause as to why their registration should not be suspended. And it would go on to say, we are available to discuss these matters with you and so forth, the last paragraph. Okay, that's what it would be. Does legal counsel have any thoughts?
Yeah, it's great.
Okay.
Because it actually, both options may be applicable in any situation. That is, even if someone did not file the disclosure form from 2022, they've already registered for 2023, you're not gonna allow them to register again in 2024, and you can also suspend
Right,
the registration of 2023,
right.
so.
Right. So I wonder if we can now have two separate votes, vote to, I wonder if legal counsel feels we need to vote on this decision to annually submit to the board, submit the report to the board. Mr. Gutierrez?
Yeah, you can have two separate votes, one,
And then vote on, and then
And
once
then
we
vote on
do
the
that, and then
letter.
votes on the language. Okay. So I will entertain, any discussion about that, or before we entertain a motion to that effect? So what this motion will do is, we will be amending our board procedures, because our board procedures, I think, are specific enough to tell us that we receive it at this time. So that's what the motion we're going to be looking at. An amendment to our board procedures upon receiving the lobbying report every year on or about March 1, okay? So who would like to make the motion?
So moved.
So make it a talking motion, so tell me what the motion is.
Yes, fine. Make an amendment to board procedures so that we are producing a report for Metro Council after receipt of all the reports on or after March 1st.
The Metro Council will be receiving the report. Just to clarify what the motion is, we'll be sending a report to Metro Council after we receive the lobbying report from the clerk's office with a summary.
Yeah.
Perhaps, with a summary every year. Okay.
reflecting, so what it will reflect is registered lobbyists that have not filed? Is that what it will be reflecting?
Yeah, so that's the question.
Reports?
Is it going to summarize a general summary of what's happening, the lobbyists, the number of lobbyists, the number of clients, and the percentage that are in compliance, full compliance? And a second paragraph, if anyone's out of compliance, a numeric description of out of compliance. So there are X number of lobbyists who failed to register, who failed to submit a report, X number who reported but failed to pay the late fee, that kind of thing. Just the numbers on the summary sheet, but it's like really two short paragraphs. And then the cover letter, the cover sheet, this thing, and then just
Yeah.
this one page with the specifics. What we-
Okay,
that's
list
it.
of missing reports.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is right, and we might add a column right here to say they've re-registered for this year. So a last column to show those who fail to, and on one page, you can see all of them who fail to comply, either because they failed to file a report or filed late without paying the fee, and whether or not they have re-registered for the current year. So it'll just be in one place, one page. And then a two-paragraph summary and a quick cover letter which says, here it is for this year, basically.
Yeah, that's great, because we would send it even if everyone was in compliance.
Right, exactly, because we've had, right. Okay, so that's the motion. You have it. Is that, yeah. It's recorded. You can look back, right, at the recording and,
Decision to amend the board procedures upon receiving the lobbying reports. Decision to annually submit a report to the council with a general summary and the broken out spreadsheet.
yes,
And we'll refine it
yes.
Right. We'll get a chance to look at it before it
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah.
With hand gestures.
Right.
Second,
Second.
Mr. Spraggins is the second.
yes.
Okay. Any discussion? Any comments? Any thoughts? Okay, ready to vote?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll ask, we'll do this by roll call.
Okay. Chair Diani,
Yes.
Mr. Gutierrez.
Yes.
Mr. Patton,
Yes.
Mr. Spraggins.
Yes.
Ms. Young.
Yes.
It's 5 in favor.
Okay, so it passes, the motion passes. That is our new procedure. At our next meeting, whenever it's scheduled, whenever it's called, we will then have an opportunity to look at that amendment and do any tweaking that we might want to do at that point. But the essence of it is there. Okay, so that brings us to the letter as amended by Mr. Spraggins, additions and the corrections by legal counsel as to the sections. And we would, so that is the amended letter that we will now be voting on.
I move to approve the letter as amended.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
Just point of clarification, to be sent to the vice mayor and the full council.
Yes.
Let's discuss that for a minute.
Okay.
Just to, so if it goes to the vice mayor, and I think we say, talk to us about this. Yeah, I'm comfortable.
I thought that the suggestion was a copy to the council,
yes,
so it's
yes.
still addressed to the vice
Oh, yeah,
mayor.
yeah, it's just a CC.
Yes.
CC to Metro Council
Yes.
members. But we are not including this time. We are not.
That's fine.
No, okay. Okay, yeah, that's fine, if it's just, yeah. Yeah,
So the motion is moved to approve the letter as amended to be sent to the vice mayor.
a CC to Metro Council members. No attachment on this letter. Although we've just amended our procedures to send it up. Maybe you're saying starting in 2024?
Yeah, we're past March, so.
Okay.
If anybody wants to see the list, they can come
Yeah,
get
yeah,
a copy of it.
yeah, everything, yeah, it's all online.
I mean, the only thing, we have a summary already in the letter of what we've noted from this, I guess, current year.
Yeah.
But we just don't have like the numbers of like how many people were not in compliance. So it's essentially the essence of what we would be sending them in future years.
Okay. Okay, so we have approval. Okay, so this will be, I will work with the clerk's office and we'll get this in shape. I will sign it and leave it to your office to deliver it by hand to the vice mayor, and do you do emails to the council members?
Yes.
Yeah. And email to the council members. And we'll get that off in October sometime, probably later this week. Is that going to be possible?
Yes.
I don't think we voted on that one yet.
Oh, as to when?
No, I mean
Like
just
actually
the letter, but we haven't taken a vote on the letter itself.
We did a motion, but we didn't.
Oh, we haven't voted on it yet?
No.
I'm sorry. I'm ahead of myself. Okay. So we're done with discussion about it. We know what, you're right, we were clarifying what the motion was. Yes, thank you. Okay, now, ready to vote? Let's turn it over for a roll call.
Chair Diani,
Yes, approved.
Mr. Gutierrez.
Yes.
Mr. Patton,
Yes.
Mr. Spraggins,
Yes.
Ms. Young.
Yes.
It's 5 in favor.
Okay. So the board has just authorized me to send the letter in the form as amended through our discussion today. So we'll put that date in, today's date. And the process for finalizing it is, I will work with the clerk's office and we will get it sent out likely this week. Okay? Great. And that brings us to the last item on our agenda, which is next steps in scheduling. At this time, we do not have our next meeting scheduled other than March of 2024. So always try to the best you can to keep the first Monday in March each year available. That's our annual meeting. And that's when we elect officers. So, and that's when we receive the lobbying report. So it's very important to be present to the extent you're able to protect your calendar.
We just elect officers. Has it been that long since
Yeah.
March? Wow,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
yeah, it's fine.
I'm sorry, I should probably know this. Do we have a new council
We do.
ex officio member?
The Councilmember Zulfat Suara.
Uh-huh, great.
Okay, so as we know, we, other than that March meeting, if a complaint is filed either on the lobbying side or on the ethics side, we will be calling a meeting, we'll be meeting again. Whenever we next meet, we will have the draft amended procedures of our board to look at and to review again, and to either tweak or confirm. Okay, so those are the next steps, given what we've done today, today's meeting. Is there any other matter to discuss? If not, then we will move on to an adjournment, and I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for being here.